Harolf pointed in the distance, and Asteria confirmed that she saw something as well. They agreed to proceed with caution. As they approached the tower, the hooded figure tried to hide, but the group told it to show itself. The strange figure approached, and they could see that it was a female. She said she had been sent by the goddess to guide the group. When the White Raven was mentioned, Cullen trusted her and approached her. Suddenly, Cullen, along with Helga and Asteria, were shaken. They held their heads for a moment and came back to reality. Instinctively, Asteria blamed the strange person who fell on her knee, claiming she meant no harm. She repeated that she had been sent by the goddess and had come from nowhere, which surprised everyone. While everyone had heard of the place, none of them had ever been there. As she continued to speak, Asteria sensed that she was not being completely honest and glared at her, keeping an eye on her. Meanwhile, Helga informed the group that she could sense a powerful primal magic in the area. One of the crew, an elf, gave the woman bread and water. She was grateful and introduced herself as Seri as she ate. She pointed to the rumbling behind them, claiming that it might be the way into the tower. While Seri rested, everyone else started working to clear the rumble. Helga checked the spheres and touched them. They felt warm, and the texture was similar to crystal. She could also sense primal magic flowing through these orbs. Seri checked the broken orb, but could not see anything special. Cullen tried to pick up the orb, and as he moved it, he could feel its full weight. As he pulled it toward him, the light suddenly disappeared and he set it down on the ground. The group tried to move the debris, but it seemed difficult to find anything to move on. Finally, Cullen noticed a white feather next to some rubble the party had not yet moved. He cleared it away and saw a hole in the ground. Asteria looked through it and could see some kind of furniture and a dim blue light similar to the one from the orbs. Since it looked quite high, she and Cullen started to prepare a rope to go down and were surprised when Helga jumped down. She landed on one of the shelves and hurt herself. The rest of the group used the rope carefully. Harolf and the other crew members stayed near the entrance to clear more debris and find another way out. They began to explore the room. A large, unnatural cave, about 20 feet wide in a radius, opened up around the group. The only obvious exit was a high passage on the west wall, with a door blocking the way, broken stone shelves scattered about. This place seemed to have been used as a pantry. Still keeping an eye on Seri, Asteria noticed that she seemed to be shaken, just as the others had been a little earlier, and were still looking at her suspiciously. Seri paid no attention and inspected the room. She found 5 torches, lit one, and gave the rest to Cullen. He found several items, including a still-intact potion and a healing kit. While Helga was about to explore the next door, Asteria heard the sound of several small creatures approaching. She shushed the group, and when they all heard it, they saw swarms of rats coming at them. Cullen swung his torch at one of the swarms and noticed that they were no ordinary rats. He grabbed his pike and impaled several of them on his weapon. Helga fought another swarm, but they bit her, causing her shield to drop, and they overpowered her until she was unconscious. Asteria drew her sword and slashed several of them, noting that they did not bleed and felt, as if they were made of wood. Seri threw objects at them and hid in the corner. Noticing that they did not like fire, he threw a torch at Asteria's right hand, who unfortunately grabbed the flame and burned herself. After switching the torch to her left hand, she used it to scare away the rats that were nibbling at Helga. The group closed in on the old woman to protect her, and managed to scatter the rest of the swarm. Asteria stabilized Helga, and for a moment looked very concerned, muttering the woman's name several times, telling her she must live. When the old woman regained consciousness, Asteria looked relieved, and her expression returned to normal. Seri examined the rats' bodies. They seemed to be made of wood, bones, and clothes. Seeing Helga in such a bad condition, they agreed to go back upstairs and rest. Cullen offered the potion to Helga, who politely declined, arguing that it would be a waste to use it on her. After more small talk about nowhere, Harolf's stories, and a little arm wrestling between Cullen and Harolf, Asteria and Helga were patched up and ready to go back down. When Seri helped to bandage Asteria, the half-elf decided to give the mysterious woman a chance and stopped looking at her suspiciously. The group returned to the room with the rats and continued exploring, entering the next room. This irregularly shaped room had a door to the north. Several shelves sat in the center of the room, and along the south wall were more shelves full of broken jars and shredded baskets. The room had a dank, foul smell, and there were layers of dirt on both the floors and the shelves. A strange sound like sobbing could be heard from somewhere in the room. As they listened, Helga suddenly called out, "Hello?" And after a small echo, a small voice answered. A little girl appeared from behind a table and introduced herself as CD. Seeing herself in the little girl, Asteria rushed over in a protective reflex, and the little girl hugged her. She patted her awkwardly on the head and asked what had happened. CD explained that she was at home and suddenly saw purple and orange lights and appeared here in the blink of an eye. They tried to ask her questions about where she lived and what clan she belonged to, but she seemed unfamiliar with these terms. When she cried and called for her parents, Asteria trembled, and the girl hugged her even tighter. Finally, Helga convinced CD to go with Herolf. As the party came back up again, Herolf was surprised to see them back so soon. He looked at CD and the party in confusion. They explained the situation and that she needed to calm down, that she would be safer with them. CD clung to Asteria, but when Ciri did a little magic trick with cards, she felt a bit safer and joined Herolf. They returned to the room where they had found CD and inspected it. Cullen found more potions with a black liquid in them, while Ciri noticed a device with a hand on a desk. Helga inspected it, and when she noticed that the hand could be pushed or pulled, she shook it. The hand had a strong grip on her, and when the old woman pulled the hand down, it let go of her, and a small green ball came out of a pebble-sized hole. Upon examination, she could not determine what it could be used for. Meanwhile, Cullen shared the vials with Asteria and Ciri, who noticed that the liquid looked like liquid lead. After seeing Helga holding the green orb, Cullen shook her hand, and with the help of Helga and Asteria, pulled it, and another green orb came out. They took the green orbs and moved on. This new strange room seemed to have once been a staircase, except that the stone stairs themselves dangled almost 20 feet above their heads, as if someone had forgotten to finish building them. On the north wall was a lever. As Helga went straight to the lever to pull it, Ciri and Asteria left the room. They heard the stairs coming out from above, as if the missing part of the staircase was being built, but from below spikes came out of the ground and impaled both Cullen and Helga. The latter fell unconscious again. As soon as the spike retreated, Asteria rushed over and stabilized the old woman. She scanned the room and noticed 3 holes below the lever, the same size as the green orbs. Cullen and Helga put theirs in, and Cullen and Asteria went back to the previous room to get a third. To test the lever more carefully, Cullen tied a rope to it and pulled it from a distance. The stairs disintegrated, but no spikes appeared. He activated it again, leaving the stairs fully constructed. The group moved on to the next room. This circular room was filthy and covered in dirt. There were 3 exits from the room, but what caught their attention were the numerous shelves with dozens of circular inserts that could have been for rolled scrolls. All seemed empty now. In the center of the room was a round stone table. Cullen checked the shelves and found a scroll. Using one of his spears, he fished out a scroll of sleep. Seeing that their comrade had found something of value, the others began to search. Asteria found a scroll of Thunderwave, and Ciri found a scroll of Prayer of Healing. Cullen handed his scroll to Helga as the old woman opened the next door. An underground river had broken through the north wall, dividing the room that had once been a vast magical study. On the other side of the river, there appeared to be a raised platform, partially covered with debris from the collapsed part of the tower. On the platform was a chest. As the group entered the room, another swarm of rats came and attacked them. They fought them again. This time they were more prepared with the torches they had lit and their weapons. Ciri, still not using her weapons, threw an orb at the swarm. After defeating them, Asteria and Cullen jumped across the river. Helga warned them to be careful with the chest, and Cullen used his pike to pry it open from a distance. Spikes came out of the chest, but they were both at a safe distance. They looted the chest and regrouped with the others.